May I have the grace to speak in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I have always felt that I live in a sort of fishbowl. I grew up as a preacher's kid, a so-called PK, which meant that people around me had certain expectations about how I was to live, and I felt watched. PKs were either supposed to be super holy, a real killjoy to be around, or else a wild person, a real rule breaker, someone your own parents would warn you to avoid. It was a no-win. Then, for most of my career, I worked in local government under the scrutiny of the citizens. My salary, my job title, and my disciplinary history were a matter of public record. Anyone could look at it. Some reporters love to catch an employee leaning on a shovel or engaging in an altercation with citizens. Today, police officers especially know that everything they do is subject to speculation. Body cameras and ubiquitous cell phone cameras are just the latest manifestations of the fishbowl. Fishbowls drive accountability, as uncomfortable as they may be. And now, of course, I'm a member of the clergy, aware that my manner of living is open to observation by all of you. In the service of ordination to the diaconate and the priesthood, the bishop asks each ordinand, will you do your best to pattern your life in accordance with the teachings of Christ so that you may be a wholesome example to your people? And twice I have said, I will. In our gospel reading today, we're reminded that Jesus is in a fishbowl. He goes to the house of a religious leader, and Luke says, they were watching him closely. Jesus has become a public figure, and his teaching and healing have attracted attention. And to the extent that he challenges some of the prevailing wisdom of his time, he's become controversial for the leaders. So they're watching him closely, ready to challenge him on points of religious law and behavior. We've read about several of these in the last several weeks. Today, Jesus goes on the offensive. Rather than waiting to be challenged on some point of law, he tells a story about humility. It seems to be practical advice. Don't set yourself up for embarrassment by claiming the place of honor. Wait to be invited, and don't turn hospitality into a transactional matter, entertaining only those who can repay you in kind. Jesus is turning the tables on the leaders around him. While they are watching his every move, he's reminding them that their actions are also subject to scrutiny. Even something as simple as choosing your seat at a party sends a message. It's useful here to know that there were rules of hospitality around banquets and feasts. The host was expected to arrange the seating based on proximity to the guests of honor. Think of the head table at a wedding today. But Jesus goes beyond that practical advice about not trying to grab the best seat. He pushes hospitality beyond holding parties for our friends who can reciprocate in kind. He wants a more expansive idea of celebration. He says we should invite those who cannot possibly repay us, those whose situations in life mean they have fewer resources. Hospitality is not a commercial endeavor. It is not about welcoming those who can afford to repay you in kind. Jesus says, when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed, for they cannot repay you. Okay, so that's not very practical advice to us as individuals. I am not likely to invite complete strangers into my home. But it is important to hear this teaching as a way of thinking about my everyday life. Hospitality offered by Jesus is not transactional. It is not about buying friends. It is about mutual love, as we heard in our reading today from the letter to the Hebrews. It arises out of mutuality. I hear this as saying that the relationships I cultivate need to be mutual, not based on what I can get out of them. It's about genuine care for each other, not manipulation for power or other reward. The command to offer hospitality we read about in Hebrews is a reference to a story in the book of Genesis where Abraham and Sarah welcomed 3 strangers and offered them food and rest. They turn out to be heavenly messengers with an affirmation of God's blessing to this couple. Hospitality in a desert culture was not just a nice thing to do. It was a matter of survival in a hostile climate. Think of the refugees crossing our southern border and dying in the desert. Some religious groups are drawing criticism as they work to alleviate this suffering. Hospitality is about building community. It's about engaging with one another in mutual respect and what may be growing intimacy without relying on the usual signs of cultural compatibility. In fact, we are asked to move across the gaps created by those habits to learn to know and love those who seem to be strangers. We are called to sit at table with those who cannot repay us, because it is there we will be sitting with Jesus. And we begin to learn what that means as we come together here in this place, in God's house, where we are invited as Jesus' guests and where we in turn issue that invitation to others, not knowing who will show up. It's countercultural, I know, and sometimes it's plain scary. In these times of violence and pandemic, we take reasonable steps to assure safety while working to extend a true welcome. In previous centuries, the practice of pew rental meant that regular attendees in church weren't likely to encounter people they did not know. You and your family paid money each year to assure your seats in church. Having an economic basis for seats meant that places of honor were purchased, and those of lesser means, especially people of color, could be kept in the back or shuffled off to the balcony, safely out of the way for regular worshipers. By the late 19th century, it was clear how this system was being manipulated for less than honorable ends. To be clear, the initial system of pew rental was simply a way of providing financial support to the church. That need did not go away with the abolition of the pew rental system. Now we ask people to make pledges and bring voluntary offerings to support the church. Where you sit is not contingent on your wealth, but the church does need your financial support. Just saying. We are called to model the hospitality and the love we receive from God as we see it modeled by Jesus. Jesus knowingly puts himself in a fishbowl, and when he calls us to follow him, we are there too. Everything we do speaks of our faithfulness, of our progress in learning to live into God's love for us. We are invited to God's banquet, and we can never repay God. We have not earned our place here. We have been invited to it. all of us. At St. Paul's, we're working to make sure our fishbowl is truly open to all. Through streamed services, we are reaching people who cannot be physically present. We are reworking our website to be easier for those looking for more information about who we are and what we are doing. We are developing a more intentional program of welcome for seekers and newcomers. We are continuing our weekly feeding program, enhanced with the availability of toiletries, clothing, and medical attention. And we are increasing our visibility outdoors with new banners and prayers on the steps. Starting in mid-September, we will offer 15 minutes of prayer in the church at noon on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, followed by blessing on the go in front of the church until 1 o'clock. You may be interested to know that last Ash Wednesday, 90 people received ashes on the go in front of St. Paul's Church. This coming Friday, we will extend hospitality to the family and friends who are grieving the death of Antonio Riley, a young man mentored by members of this congregation. The family does not have another church home, so we are honored to be the place where the family can hold a visitation in Scott Hall and where clergy from St. Paul's will preside at the funeral service in the church and the cemetery committal. We will offer witness to our trust in the God who says, in the words of the psalm quoted in our Hebrews reading, "I will never leave you or forsake you." That is the message in this fishbowl, Jesus' fishbowl. The table where we gather today and at funerals and on every Sunday is a sign of the sharing of God's love. No matter our circumstances, we are invited to receive God's blessing. And we do so as a community, standing or kneeling together in solidarity with each other, across all the lines that divide us elsewhere. Here we stand together to receive God's love and forgiveness. It is this love that enables us to live as reconciled children. And that, my friends, is what we mean by the kingdom of God. You are welcome here.